Have you ever felt that people only come to you when they need something? Not because they miss you, but because you are always the one who is willing. Have you ever canceled your own plans, a rare rest, much needed sleep, or a moment of peace, just to help someone, only to be forgotten the moment they got what they wanted? There are people who only remember you when they need your hand to lift them up. And when you are tired, silent, or in need of help, there is no one there. If you have ever felt that way, then this story is for you. Because sometimes life does not teach us lessons through great falls, but through the people we have sacrificed too much for without receiving anything in return. Long ago, in a small, peaceful town where green stretched all the way to the horizon and old houses stood quietly through the years, there lived a man named Ethan. Ethan was not the most remarkable person in the town. He was not wealthy, nor did he have any special status. But there was one thing everyone knew about him. Ethan was always there. If a bicycle chain slipped off in the middle of the road, people called Ethan's name. If someone needed help carrying heavy boxes, they knocked on Ethan's door. If someone felt lonely and needed someone to listen, they walked straight to Ethan's house without hesitation. The door of his house was familiar with hurried knocking. His name was familiar with being called whenever others needed help. And Ethan never refused anyone. Whenever someone came to him, Ethan always wore the same familiar smile and said the same words, "Of course, I'll help." He believed that helping others made him a better person. He believed that if he gave enough, one day that kindness would return to him. People in the town often praised Ethan as kind, good-hearted, always ready for others. Those compliments made him feel valuable, and so he kept saying yes, even when he had begun to feel tired inside. But little by little, without Ethan even realizing it, his life slowly stopped belonging to him. The garden behind his house remained unfinished, grass growing higher than his knees. The cracked window frames were never repaired. The roof leaked whenever it rained, but Ethan always said, later. His own problems piled up, while Ethan continued running all over town, fixing everything for others, while neglecting his own life. Every evening, when the town had fallen quiet, Ethan would quietly return home. His clothes were stained with mud, his hands aching after a long day of helping others. He entered the house in silence, as if he did not want to disturb anyone, even though he himself was the most exhausted. His mother often waited by the dim lamp. She looked at her son with eyes filled with both love and worry. Some nights she said nothing, only sighed. But after watching her son grow more tired day by day, she could no longer stay silent. "Ethan," she said softly, "you help everyone. But why is there no one by your side when you need it?" Ethan stood still. The question was not new, but every time he heard it, it unsettled him. He turned away and gave a small smile. The same smile he always used to hide everything. "It's okay, Mom," he replied. "One day, people will remember my kindness." He believed his sacrifices would eventually be rewarded. He believed that if he were patient a little longer, gave a little more, the world would not forget him. But that day never came. Mr. David looked straight at Ethan. If the answer makes you feel like you are hurting yourself, say, "Not today." No long explanations, no excessive apologies. Ethan silently nodded. The idea made him feel both afraid and relieved. Afraid, because he had never done that before. Relieved, because for the first time, someone gave him permission to choose himself. "Try this," he added. "You will see what really happens when you stop running after everyone." Ethan stood up and walked away from the river, carrying a strange feeling inside, as if he were standing before a new path he had never dared to step onto before. One late afternoon, the sky suddenly darkened. Heavy black clouds rolled in, and the wind began to blow strongly through the streets of the town. Everyone knew a major storm was approaching. People hurried outside to protect what belonged to them. They covered their gardens, moved furniture inside, and secured their windows. Everywhere, hurried footsteps and urgent calls filled the air. Ethan also ran outside, but not to take care of his own garden. He heard Atho's voice calling, his close friend in the town. Atho's tools were still scattered across the yard, not yet brought inside. Without hesitation, Ethan ran straight to his friend's house. They worked as fast as they could. Ethan pulled tarps, moved furniture, and covered each item before the rain poured down. The wind grew stronger by the minute, but he kept helping Atho until everything was safe. Meanwhile, Ethan's garden was left behind. The outdoor furniture had not been moved. The plants were not protected. The wooden crates were still wide open. Then the storm hit. Rain crashed down violently, and the wind tore through the town. When Ethan finally returned home, nearly everything in his garden had been completely destroyed. He collapsed onto the front steps of his house. Rainwater streamed down his face, blending with exhaustion and silence. Before him lay a field of mud. Once a peaceful corner he had never had time to care for. Night had fully fallen. The rain continued to fall softly after the storm, like the last drops of a long day. Ethan remained seated on the steps, saying nothing, his empty gaze fixed on the ruined garden before him. His mother stepped outside, holding a warm towel. She gently draped it over her son's shoulders, her movements slow and full of love. She did not scold him, nor was she angry. Her voice was soft and low, as if afraid of breaking the fragile silence. "Ethan," she said, "today you saved everything, except your own life." Ethan did not respond. His throat tightened. For the first time, he could not find a smile to hide his feelings. Her words were not loud, but they struck directly at the deepest part of his heart. Inside Ethan, something quietly broke. It was not anger, but awakening. He suddenly realized that while he had been busy protecting other people's lives, he had allowed his own life to slowly collapse without even noticing. The next morning, Ethan woke up with a heavy body and a tangled mind. The storm had passed, but another storm inside him had not yet settled. He left the house early and walked toward the edge of town, where the river flowed slowly and quietly. There lived Mr. David, a retired teacher whom Ethan deeply respected. He lived alone in a small wooden house near the river, far from the noise of the town. People said Mr. David did not speak much, but every word he spoke made others think for a long time. Ethan sat beside him, watched the water flow quietly for a while, then finally spoke. "Sir," Ethan said, his voice hoarse, "I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. I help everyone wholeheartedly, but I feel empty. I'm tired, not from the work, but from people. Why does kindness hurt me like this?" Mr. David did not answer immediately. He simply looked at the river, where the morning sunlight shimmered on the surface, and then slowly said, "Ethan, look at this river. It gives water to plants, birds, and fields. It sustains the entire town. But do you know what happens when there is too much rain and the river forgets its boundaries?" Ethan remained silent, thinking. He looked at the slow-moving water in front of him. After a moment, he answered softly, "It overflows. It causes floods. It destroys everything." Mr. David nodded, his eyes still fixed on the river. "That's right," he said. "A river exists to give, but only when it knows its boundaries. When it forgets them, its kindness becomes destruction." He turned to look at Ethan. "You are the same. You are a good person, Ethan. But you give without setting limits. You run everywhere for others, but you never stop for yourself." Ethan lowered his head. The words echoed like a truth he had always avoided. "You think saying no is selfish," Mr. Rob David continued, his voice calm and firm. "But sometimes saying no is the most honest form of self-care. If you do not protect your time, your energy, and your peace, no one else will do it for you." Ethan listened in silence. For the first time, he did not feel blamed. He only felt understood. Mr. David took a slow breath and continued, as if handing Ethan something very important. "For the next 7 days," he said, "do not say yes immediately. When someone asks for help, pause for a moment. Ask yourself 3 simple questions." He raised one finger. "Will this take away time that you need for yourself?" The second finger. "Will it drain your energy, focus, or peace?" The third finger. "And after helping, will you feel stronger or emptier?" The next morning, Ethan woke up earlier than usual. Mr. David's words were still echoing in his mind. A strange feeling, mixed with nervous anticipation, followed him throughout the morning, as if something would be different today. Near noon, Oliver rushed over. His voice was hurried as always. "Ethan, help me. I need to move a very heavy crate. You're the only one who can help." Ethan stood still for a moment. His eyes instinctively shifted to the fence beside his house, the rotting wood that had been broken for months. So many times he had planned to fix it, only to walk away because someone else needed him. His heart beat fast. Every old habit inside him pushed him to say, sure, but this time he stopped. He took a deep breath. "Atho," Ethan said slowly, "today I need to fix my own fence. I can help you later, but not today." Atho froze, as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. "You're saying no? You've never said no before." Ethan nodded gently. No further explanation. No justification. Atho left with an irritated look. Ethan stood there, guilt creeping into his chest. But he didn't turn back. He picked up his tools and began fixing the fence. A few hours later, the fence finally stood firm. Ethan wiped the sweat from his forehead, and for the first time in a long while, he felt a small but clear sense of pride, because he had chosen himself. The next day, and the day after that, things began to change. People still came to Ethan. The familiar requests were still there, but this time, he no longer reacted out of old habit. 2 neighbors stopped by, asking him to help carry bags and fix a wobbly chair. Ethan listened, then calmly replied that he was busy with his own work. He wasn't angry, nor was he cold. He was simply honest. Strangely, when the door closed, Ethan didn't feel empty or guilty as he had once imagined. Instead, a sense of relief spread through his body. That evening, for the first time in many years, he sat down without feeling exhausted. He ate dinner slowly. He went to bed early. There were no urgent knocks at the door, no feeling that he had to rush somewhere. A very unfamiliar peace appeared within him. Not loud, not exciting, just a gentle stillness he had long forgotten. On the 4th day, the sky turned gray again. Heavy clouds gathered, and rain began to fall. Not as violent as the previous storm, but long and heavy enough to test a person's patience. Ethan was inside the house when he heard water dripping from the ceiling. He looked up and realized the roof was leaking again. In the past, in situations like this, he was used to dropping everything to help others. This time, he stood still. He looked toward the door. A part of him waited, waiting for a knock, waiting for a question, waiting for help the same way he had helped so many others. But nothing happened. No one came. No one asked. Instead of anger, something else rose within Ethan, something stronger and clearer. He realized that if he didn't stand up for himself, no one else would do it for him. Ethan grabbed his tools and climbed onto the roof in the light rain. He worked slowly and carefully. The task wasn't easy, and it took a long time. But when he finished, the roof no longer leaked. Ethan sat beneath the newly repaired roof, listening to the steady sound of rain outside, and whispered to himself, "So this is what it feels like to rely on myself." As time passed, Ethan was no longer the man who ran everywhere whenever someone called his name. He began waking up early to care for his garden. He repaired his house. He made time for himself, time he had once believed was selfish. And then something unexpected happened. The people in the town did not leave him. They simply stopped taking advantage of him. Atho began handling his own work. The neighbors stopped knocking on Ethan's door for things they could easily do themselves. The town remained friendly, but Ethan was no longer seen as a tool available to anyone at any time. His house became tidy. His garden grew green again. Ethan's face looked brighter and lighter. And for the first time in many years, he smiled without feeling tired. One quiet afternoon, Mr. David came to visit. He looked at the healthy garden, the orderly house, then at the calm smile on Ethan's face. He asked softly, "So when you stopped saying yes to everyone, did the world collapse?" Ethan smiled. "No, sir. My world finally began to feel right." Mr. David nodded. When you stop saying yes to everyone, that is when you say yes to yourself for the first time. And that was when life began to change. So if you are like Ethan, if you give too much, if you always say yes, even when it hurts you, remember this: saying no does not make you selfish. It makes you strong. It is how you choose peace over pressure. Your time is valuable. Your mind is valuable. Your heart is valuable. Protect them. Because only when you begin to respect yourself does the world begin to respect you. If you enjoyed this story, please like and share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more inspiring stories like this one. Thank you for staying with us. See you again in the next story with new thoughts and new lessons. Until then, live well.